action. What's up? My name's Elise and you are back to watch another video. So kudos to you because that's great. So each month I want to take a different topic, a different theme that we are more than and go through that. And so this first month I want to kind of go on that journey together that we are more than our setbacks. And week 1 of these I'll talk about what God says about the issue. Week 2 I'll tell a little more of my story. Week 3 I'll have a conversation with someone in my world that is either an expert or has has been an expert, wow, at the subject or the thing. Okay, whatever. And then week 4, I want to just kind of answer your questions because you guys have been writing in and I want to make sure that this is a conversation. So this is the first month, or this is the first week of the first month. Okay, this is the very first one I've done, clearly. And I want to talk about what God says about the issue of setbacks, of plot twists, of failures, of all those twists and turns that life takes us on. So let's jump in. You know, there's this really cool guy in the Bible. Like, there's a bunch of them, and they're all amazing. Like, you all win. But there's this one guy I love, and his name's Pita. And a lot of people have heard of him. He's like this hero in the Bible. But I think so often I read the Bible and I see them as heroes, but I forget to see them as humans. Actually, Jesus tells him, Peter, I'm gonna build my church on you. Like, talk about responsibility. Building the church on you is like kind of a big deal, bro. But what happened right after that? Well, if you look at it, there's a bunch of plot twists that take place. Because in the very same conversation that Jesus tells Peter he's gonna be the rock on which he builds his church, he calls Peter Satan. Literally, it's in the Bible. Peter tries to reprimand Jesus, which like, bro, don't do that. You know, someone's like saying something out of their mouth and you want to stop them. He's been called to be the rock on which Jesus would build his church, but in the same breath, he realizes how human he is. Jesus, on the night that he was going to be handed over to be crucified, Peter falls asleep when he's meant to be praying for Jesus. He lets him down. That's in Matthew 26. And then Peter like cuts a soldier's ear off, like super emotional, erratic, which like, I get you, buddy. And Jesus has to heal him. And then perhaps the biggest failure of Peter, he denies knowing Jesus around a campfire. Not to like a soldier or the police or someone that was intimidating. He denied knowing Jesus to a little girl. And so there's this huge setback for Peter. And if you think about the human, not the hero, for a second, Peter for sure felt like he blew it. Like, it's over. Jesus will use someone else to build the church. Surely he would never be able to use me, not now. And yet the thing I love about Jesus is even in our failures, even in our setbacks, Jesus will always come to remind us that he's not done with us. And he comes to us because Peter gets so emotionally distraught and full of guilt and shame, I bet, that he says, you know what, I'm going back to the thing I used to do. He went back to fishing. And so here's Peter, full of failure, full of setbacks, full of shame, going back to the thing that he had once put down. How often have I gone back to the things, maybe you too, that I said I was done with, but then a little bit of shame creeps in, or a failure, or something I promised myself I'd never do again, and suddenly we find ourselves going back to the thing that we promised ourselves we never would, the thing that's really comfortable, you know? And so Jesus finds Peter in the thing that Peter had gone back to. Jesus didn't wait for Peter to come and grovel and say, I'm so sorry, and prove his loyalty. He went to Peter, and he calls him in from the boat, and there's a whole miracle that takes place that you can read about. But the thing I want to centralize around, and the thing that got me this morning when I was reading it, is that Jesus is cooking some fish around a campfire. So a couple days before, Peter felt like a failure and had his greatest setback around a campfire, and here we are a few days later around another campfire. But what's about to happen is not a setback. What's about to happen is a setup for him to step into his calling. And so Jesus says to him, he's cooking, and he says, Peter, do you love me? And Peter says, yes, I love you. He says, then feed my sheep. And he asks him again, and Peter has the same response, and then Jesus has the same response. And this happens 3 times. Like, you Peter had 3 setbacks in one conversation, denied Jesus 3 times. And so Jesus gave him a chance to not just remind Jesus that he loved him, but I think remind himself. And 3 times came to redeem the setback. And at the end, Peter says, Jesus, you know everything. You know I love you. And I can't help but see the human there. That he finally got to a place of not just saying, yes, I love you, but you know everything. You know what happened that night. You know that setback. You know the disappointment. You know the thing that I feel like has now disqualified me from my dreams. You know it all. And then Jesus says, yeah, so follow me. And I love that because our identity isn't in the thing that we think disqualifies us. Our identity is in who we follow. And so I've had my fair share of setbacks, and next week I'll talk about that. But for just today, I don't know where you find yourself. But even if you find yourself the morning after a campfire of guilt, a campfire of failure, a campfire of a setback, can I encourage you that Jesus is there cooking some fish and saying, hey, would you come to me and let me redeem the setback so it can be a setup into your calling. And whatever you've done, whatever you've been through, it's not who you are. Whatever label you've been given, it's not who you are. Whatever setback you're facing or have faced, that doesn't define you. I am so much more than my setbacks. I'm so much more than the detours I've taken. More determined than ever to do what God's called me to do. And that's where Peter found himself after that. He was the rock on which Jesus built his church. And we can be too. So I hope you found that helpful. And next week I'll dive a little more into my story because believe me, I have had my fair share of setbacks. But until then, why don't you subscribe or share this if it was helpful, comment below, and do all the things that the YouTubes allow you to do. And yeah, I guess I'll see you next week.